scene. Last time out, it was Jacob Reed who finally got back to the top of the standings in the GTPs, and a rare victory for Jack David Spickett in the GTOs. But today, we're not at Jerez, as you can see. We are at Barber Motorsport Park. We're a little bit of a day ahead here, but we're Barber Motorsport Park today for the IMSA Vintage. It's round 8 at a track that the drivers love. Who will come out top today, we will find out later. Well, hello, everybody. I am Craig King, and joining me in the booth tonight is Sagar Bashki with Christian Duproy in the director's chair, using cameras provided to us from Dougie Beard. Opened in 2003, an Alan Wilson track is Barber Motorsport, underrated in all of America. To find out more, we head to Joe Peak for a GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Barber Motorsports Park. Located just east of Birmingham, Alabama, this is one of the newer circuits in American road racing. The track was built in 2003 by George Barber to go along with his Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, which can be seen appropriately from Museum Corner on the track. While the main circuit is the full course, which includes 16 turns over roughly 2¼ miles, there are also 2 lesser used layouts called the Short A and Short B courses. The track is known for its technical layout and hugely dramatic elevation changes. In every category of racing, it carries a reputation of making overtakes difficult. That's not to say it's impossible, with most passes happening into Charlotte's Web. Named for the spider sculpture outside the hairpin, it often suckers drivers into braking too deep with the sudden drop just as you attempt to slow the car down. That's not the most challenging part of the circuit, though. Museum Corner is reminiscent of turns like the corkscrew, with its blind entry, multiple apexes, and cliff-like plunge down a hill. IndyCar and IMSA have visited many times in the past decade, while motorcycle racing is also a regular staple here. Practice and precision are usually required to be able to find a fast lap, but there's a heavy dose of bravery also needed in a number of spots. Despite the track being very wide, accidents often collect multiple cars due to the lack of visibility over crests. All in all, this place proves tough to even seasoned veterans. But with the hillsides and trees providing beautiful natural viewing spaces and an immaculate facility, it's no wonder fans keep showing up in droves to watch the racing here.
Well, we're back actually in Alabama now for Barber Motorsports. There you go. A very fantastic track around here today. Tell the audience a bit more about this track.
Track length of approximately 2.38 miles or 3.83 kilometers long. Founded in 1975, but opened up for racing in 2003. We've got 15 corners, 8 to the left, 9 to the right. Elevation change around 60 feet. Most of that happening through the corkscrew-like corner of 7 through 8. It's got unique design awards attached to it. It's an amazing track, one that is infrequently used here in Alabama, but we're using it here for the IMSA Vintage Series. And watching multi-class racing around this track is going to be exciting because the drivers are going to have to pass under some very tricky conditions.
Yeah, a lot of tricky conditions out here, and that's what actually makes this such a challenging track for the drivers, because they need to actually learn patience is definitely a virtue out there today. So let's get to the championship standings, because as I did mention, after last week, Jacob Reed took the championship lead away from Valenteus, only because Valenteus wasn't here last time out. That allows Alessia Jack as well right behind him, with Gabriel Martinez in 4th, Jack Wells just in 5th, battling with Brendan Lim and Henning Swebeg, with David Ricciardi, who's still in that GTP Lights Championship. Pepe Fuertes and Fabian Jungblom rounds out the top 10 in a very close field. The GTOs are just as close.
In the GTO category, it's Joram Van Hicks with 145 points out in P1, with Noel Lundberg in P2, Johnny Hanger in 3rd place, Mickey Friesen in 4th place, Doug Cloud in 5th, Josh Brain 53 points back in 6th, Ian Haycox in 7th, Andreas Schuster in 8th place, Ikea Kolostal in 9th, Jack David Spickett in 10th position. It's awfully close in both categories. I'm looking forward to how this week is going to fare out for the drivers in the GTO category as well as the GTPs.
Yeah, it's going to be very close in both classes on this tight track. Let's just give a rundown of the track, though, because it is round 8 of 12, and we are in the 40-minute sprint, of course, an open setup. So bring what you made, or use something the wonderful IMSA Vintage community has made and provided on their Discord and the forums. But if you crash the car, you are done for the day. There is no spare car out there. There will be a drive-through at 17 incident points, a disqualification at 25. In theory, one would say you probably shouldn't be seeing those drive-throughs, but a unused track is Barber, even with a little bit of wide straights, is going to be very interesting. And just to say how tricky this track is, a one Lando Norris couldn't get pole position here in the sim about 6 years ago. I do remember it was my first time out of the rookies as we get ready to watch qualifying. It's a strength of field today. Well, if you're a cricketing fan, you get one leg in the air. 3,333 is the strength of field out there today as the drivers are starting their qualifying. It's a nice, cool day out there as well. It's going to be interesting just to see what times we're seeing. Matthew Cockham's going to be the first man across the line. I think Swebeg just goes into the 108s, and here comes the big hitters. Gabriel Martinez takes the pole position.
Amazing lap times, sub 90 seconds, faster than Laguna Seca, down into the 108s as we watch the GTP just absolutely send it around the track. Jacob Reed right now resting in second place currently, and he's on one for a great lap currently. When they get to the line, what will it be for Reed? Only good enough for second position, it looks like, for Jacob Reed. I thought he was going to do a little bit better than that currently, but no. 4.5 minutes left in this qualifying run, though, so the drivers will get another 4 cracks at it before they have to come back to pit row.
Yeah, 4 more cracks out there now as Noah Lundberg, as the GTOs start through their possession of the cars. And it's going to be interesting to see the timing difference, the speed difference. You don't usually talk about 13 seconds as a big deal, but it is. And they get to run the curves a lot through this fantastic downhill. Gabriel Martinez just shocks everybody to take that away again for Jacob Reed, and Jack Wells goes up into third as we're watching the number 4, Noah Lundberg, coming on by, and this is the back straight into the tricky 9 and 10. It's downhill for 9, it's uphill for 10, and then the sweeping corners here as we watch Jacob Reed come across the final line. He's come across one last time. He needs something good. It's invalid. It's invalid. All eyes will be on the number 1 car to see if Valenteus can take pole as Lundberg comes across the line.
These GTO cars are pretty amazing things. Turbocharged all-wheel drive paths paved the way into the 1990s. These incredible pieces of machinery are all turbocharged and absolutely flying out on the racetrack. Current lap being a 107.9. New benchmark being set. The gauntlet has been thrown down. Holy Toledo, that is a very good lap. 4/10 clear of Martinez in P2. Martinez and Reed, Wells have a lot of work to do to catch back up. We were talking about 33 thousandths being a big difference. Now 4/10, that's a huge margin to make up.
That's an insane margin coming out there as Doug Cloud's going to be one of the last GTOs to set their final lap. Noah Lundberg is still out there, and I do wonder how his pace is going right now. He goes up and he goes down. He goes down, then he goes up, and he's looking pretty good for pace. Comes through into 12, now 13. You'd go straight on for the pit lane. They won't need a pit lane today. Around he goes now, final few corners into 14A, 15, and now full throttle. Can use a lot of that curving if need be. Doesn't need to do it right now. He will try to get a good run to the line. And is that the time we see? It is indeed. And it's going to be a 10th to the lead. Villarola. That's a name we haven't seen for a while. He won't get that pole as Noah Lundberg is provisional pole for the GTOs.
That is absolutely amazing. Getting it done when the clock strikes midnight is the most critical thing for qualifying, and you got to keep a very cool head as well to make sure you get those lap times in under the wire, and make sure you pull out valid laps as well. We saw just a few moments ago one of the drivers not being able to get a valid lap done, although it was a fast lap, just breaching track limits, unfortunately, and causing them to lose that time. Josh Brain right now coming out of the final corner. What does he have in store for us? 122.3 is the time to beat. 122.1 will be his current lap, but I believe that one was not valid either.
No, that had an off track to it. So this is one of the last men who can set a time with 1 minute to go. I don't think Aiden is going to set a lap time out there coming down. I just love it when we get to see 7 into 8 really attack the curves in these GTOs, and you do need to attack the curves. Going a little bit wide, that will be an off track. It's an older track around here, so it isn't the 4-tire rule, middle of the car rule. So unfortunately for Aiden, that will be all they wrote out there. 26 Celsius track temp. That's 78 Fahrenheit, with quite a bit of humidity out here as we get ready to watch the countdown to the final 25 seconds. This lap won't count. It's all good for just a little bit of learning. Tobias Rona also not setting a lap time out there. 2 invalid laps. Kanyuka Gabbiani, nothing set as the Colombian will come across the line. There will be a lap on the board. It will be an invalid lap. What it does mean is that Valenteus leaves out the GTPs. Noah Lundberg will be your pole sitter for the GTOs, but let's go down through the 17 GTPs and 19 GTOs. I'll have those GTPs. Sega will have the GTOs for you because, as I said, Valenteus, pole position by 0.472 from Gabri Martinez, who just pitched Jacob Reed after an invalid second lap. Then it's going to be Jack Wells in 4th with Henning Swevik in 5th. And Laus also one of his best qualifyings we've seen in a while in 6th. Raul Rush's Guardia will be 7th with Fabian Jungblöf in 8th. And then Brendan Lim will be 9th with Davide Ricciardi rounding out the top 10. And just a small field today to the second page for the GTPs. Will be Matthew Cockerham in 11th with Seamus Power back again in 12th. Diego Mastretta will be 13th with Andre Felipe Diaz in 14th. Brian Henson, the last of the time, qualified for the GTPs in 15th with Tobias Rona 16th, and Ganyuka Gabbiani will be 17th. Sega has those GTOs.
In the GTO category, driving these lovely Audis, it'll be Noel Lundberg in P1 with Villarola in P2, Cal Young in 3rd with Joram Van Hicks in row 2 in 4th position, Mickey Friesen in 5th with Johnny Hanger in 6th position, Timothy Reed in 7th, Matthias Hadval in 8th, Ilka Costiallo, excuse my pronunciation, and Josh Brain on row number 5 in 10th position. Doug Cloud rounds out the 11th position next to Ian Haycox, Roman Bello in 13th, Martin Hedrick in 14th, Brandon White in 15th, Henry, oh man, this is a tough one, Henry Vermaki in 16th, Richard Heineman in 17th, Chris Hayes in 18th, and Aiden Oxdine in 19th position.
Give a shout out to Sega, of course. It's never easy when you've just jumped in. Not the best of names for some people. Of course, it's a very European-eccentric IMSA Vintage field as the cars will start going. Now, just for an information for the weather, because it's sunny. You don't have rain here. It doesn't rain in IMSA Vintage, but it's a southern wind of 23 kilometers an hour. So you're looking at about 15 miles an hour. That's going to be noticeable. Now, if you wonder where north is, as you're turning into turn 1, your nose is facing north. So they are going to have crosswind basically all the day. And with the way the track bends into itself, almost a little bit like a paper clip and then comes back out, you're going to be finding wind to your left, wind to your right, back to the left, back to the right. It's going to be tough out there for that balance for these prototypes.
Yeah, it really will be extremely difficult for these cars. Here's Richard Heinemann in the back of the field, the Canadian driver running in 17th position, bobbing, weaving, generating some heat into these tires. Man, I was watching some videos of this car. The only places you'll see them is at historic events these days, whether you're watching historic races or the Goodwood Festival of Speed. And they just sound so crisp and so pure. The internal combustion engine is so phenomenal. I just love the sound of these Audis. How do you feel about it, Craig?
I love the sound. They're one of the toughest cars to drive on the sim. These GTPs a little bit easier, but the downforce does let you go. And we were looking at Richard there, and just want to give some sympathies to him, racing in honor of his father, who passed away earlier this week. And there he is. And as someone that lost his father earlier this year, I know what it's all like. So dedicating the race today, the Canadian, in honor of his dad. And of course, all of us in the booth send our condolences to him and the family. And definitely just there. We're one big community in sim racing, and we always help each other out. And that's the name of the game out here today. And this is going to be an interesting one for the race, because the pace car is going to dip in from turn 14. And then 14A is controlled by Valenteus, and 15 controlled by Valenteus, and the whole start line controlled by Valenteus. You get the idea. We're going to get ready for 40 minutes, and the pace car's not going to be there. He's going to sit there for 40 minutes in the front of the line. Where does Valenteus go? He controls the field to get ready for 40 minutes of IMSA Vintage action here at Barber Motorsports Park. And away he goes early, and he has caught Gabriel Martinez sleeping. In fact, sleeping so much, Gabriel now the defense against a Jack Wells. And Jack Wells is going to go sliding into turn 1, and a little bit wide there from Gabriel. He's going to try and make a response. Nothing going. Meanwhile, behind, and he's Webber trying to keep on going. Guardian trying to keep on going. GTO straight down into turn 1.
Great start for the GTPs, keeping it calm, cool, and collected, and free of incidents. But you're absolutely right. That was sleeping at the wheels. Jack Wells into third position now in the GTP category. Looking back at the GTOs, things are very clean and tidy here. A little bit of argy-bargy, elbows out racing between the 3 and the 8, currently running back into 5th and 6th place. And there is a huge pileup of GTPs now, and they're going to actually get caught up by the GTO's cars. And now Noel Lundberg has to check up and might lose a position here as the rest of the field catch back up to him.
Well, it all started from Davide Ricciardi trying to defend and move from Chambers Power, and that just turned out to basically collect about 5 different cars. Meanwhile, the GTOs get by a little bit unscathed. That's good, but they don't have to worry too much. Here's Gabriel Martinez trying to make a bit of moves. We'll probably look at that later down into the race. Gabriel still looking to see if he can get to Jack Wells. He's pushed away forward. They're going to be siding side by side. Jack has to get out of it. I think he missed a gear shift there. A little bit naughty, you'd say, from Gabriel. That was definitely elbows out. He gave that P3 back. No, P.
And looking forward, the gap is 0.7 of a second on this opening lap. It's an amazing run for Adrius right now. He controlled the field expertly going into the first corner and really did catch the rest of the field sleeping at the wheel. Now checking in with Gabriel Martinez, and looking further back at the 6th place driver as Olsen, the driver from Denmark currently, and he is running full liveries from the field. You can tell that the drivers put a lot of character and time into their liveries and making them unique as possible. Fastest lap comes out from the leader of the race, 109.363 currently.
Good time from Valenteus out there as Timothy Reed just there battling Joni Hagner. I thought Joni Hagner went down the positions early, but I remembered Billy Rollers in here today, his Glacier Racing. Going there, Gabbiani into a tow. Tobias Rona is well in a tow as well. So we keep going into Matthias Hadbout and Doug Cloud, trying to look to move against Jacob Reed. Very shortly, give it about 3 more laps, I reckon, we will get.
Really going to be a phenomenal time here. Currently, and it is going to be a great opportunity. And they are running very, very low right now. It is absolutely phenomenal how cleanly the race has been. The drivers mounting the curbs, assaulting them very aggressively in these vehicles, and you wouldn't think that they'd be apt to doing so, but the drivers are well equipped to handle the challenges that are being thrown at them here in Alabama at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yeah, this is such a challenge, and it's a tough track to make overtake even in modern day IndyCar. So that's what you're seeing right now, is the drivers just having a little bit of a wait for the moment to see what's going on, and that's a little bit why the Gabriel Martinez moment may have just stuck out there, because a little bit of desperation is needed sometimes to just keep on going. Ian Haycock did take a retirement from that opening crash, and very interesting moment to see that as well. Jacob Reed, now these are the two we want to keep on back, keeping your eyes on, the 2 championship leaders, the guys that we've been screaming for almost the whole year. We need Jacob Reed versus Valenteus, because they're about to hit the traffic, and there may only be 18 GTOs out there today. But you can see that Valenteus is trying to get ahead and try to beat, and this is the tough part here. Over the top of turn 4, Jacob Reed has to lift, because the GTOs have to brake, and Reed realizes the desperation, tries to get in between both of these cars. Oxidine is going to just hold him up a little bit. He doesn't lose a lot of time. However, still losing some time to Valenteus in the traffic is not a good sign.
Lap traffic giveth, lap traffic taketh away in the same breath of air. So the gap comes down to 0.7 of a second, but he did lose a couple of tenths there, and that will hurt his charge as they both make their way through the GTO field. Here's the crash on the start in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and it's a bit of a moment, to say the least, going through the chicane. And man, that's just super unfortunate. It just seems like a first lap incident.
It's just one of those drivers just trying to make some moves out there. Jack Wells was trying to make some moves and got to the chicane at 9 and 10 and found himself off the track. And you can see this is the traffic. Welcome to Barber Motor Speedway. Welcome to Alabama. Jack Wells in the background trying to make some moves, and we've got at the front here Raul Roche's Guardia trying to get past Lars Olsen. There, Jack Wells also making battles. Everyone trying to get through. This is only the back of the GTO field as well, as they're all trying to find a way around. Goes Brendan Lim. Very good move there for Brendan Lim to try and hold off any charge. Jack Wells is going to try and go in late here, but this corner, it may double apex. He won't get a good run. In fact, it's going to be side by side with Brendan Lim. He'll have to do is around the outside. This is what caused the accident on lap 1. Can he fight this? He's going to try and fight this. They'll go side by side through the chicane. Through the chicane they'll go. They've got a spinning car and Lars Olsen. They're still side by side. And they're going to go side by side with clear air. And finally Jack Wells gets it. What a move down the chute for Jack Wells around the outside.
Really amazing stuff here at Barber Motorsports Parkway. The action will not stop. The drivers will keep on fighting till their dying breath, it seems, going through the chicane where they saw an incident take place early on lap 1, but still risking it for the biscuit. Cars spun off already in their foresight, but they still challenged each other through that section, nearly going 3 wide through that chicane. Absolutely phenomenal racecraft from these drivers right now. The gap has come down from Valenteus to Reed down to 0.4 of a second, so the challenge is going to be there, and it's on like Donkey Kong, folks. Lumberg and Young separated by 0.7 of a second as well. Here's Mickey Friesen right now, the driver from the United States, driving forward into 5th place. The number 8 car looking apt and in a bit of a sandwich right now between Van Hicks and Hagner, currently running in 5th and 6th respectfully.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and you kind of want to hope that you can make some moves. And well, that was a Henning Swebbe trying to make a late lunge there, and now we'll just thread the needle through this final section. Mickey Friesen, he's looking calm. Well, we say he's looking calm. We only see his eyes sometimes, and the microphone's in the way. Maybe he can use this for an advantage to try and make a jump on Van Hick, but just too far down. And you can see the traffic. There's only really 3 straights on this track. They call it 4. But it's those straights that are really treacherous out there to try and make any sort of move. And this is what the drivers are looking to do, is wait for the opportunity. But for Mickey Friesen, the opportunities aren't coming at the moment. He's losing more time. In fact, he's on the defense now from Joni Hagner. Joni Hagner's going to go around that outside, and around the outside of 5 is never doable here at Barber, just with the way the traffic goes. The leaders are right back up together, though, in the GTP. Joni Hagner, is he going to do anything this time by? No. And they come on down the S's. By the way, I think Jack Wells did lose a couple positions earlier in the race. Good little move here as Joni Hagner comes on by. That gap is keeping your eyes on the timing tower is less than half a second now for the GTP. But Noah Lundberg already a second ahead of Carl Young. Early days, but what a start that is.
And I think that probably has something to do with the traffic that Lundberg has seen so far. Maybe a little bit more respect given, or perhaps just getting lucky there in the traffic. Holy smokes, as the GTPs, chop it up through the GTOs. It is getting awfully dicey here. Joni Hagner, the driver from Finland, trying to go up the inside line, finds the gap here, is able to get alongside the number 8 through the sweeping right-hander. Trying to go the long way around the outside isn't going to work successfully there, especially as a GTP tries to come right on through.
Did some grants of time on there. Brendan Lim's had an off. Brendan Lim had an off going side by side with Cal Young. Cal Young somehow keeps hold of P3, but Mickey Friesen defends that. We'll look at that replay later on, as Mickey now has to just hope this traffic right behind goes on. In fact, now Veli Roller in front's gone off as well. So these guys battling at the front may just be pulling these guys back in. This could be interesting for the battles. In fact, even more carnage ahead as Mickey continues to just hold off, but he sees up ahead that was P3 in front of me now, because it's Vili Roller having a mistake. Everyone's just having mistakes at the front. The traffic through these S's are oh so tough, and it's catching the drivers out at the moment. The gap now between Roller and Friesen, it's coming down to a second. Just what you want if you're Mickey Friesen. You want to catch up to these guys. There's still a championship to fight for.
Here comes a replay of what we saw earlier. Here's Brendan Lim, the driver from the United States, just getting absolutely airborne and clattering doors with the GTO category coming through, and just super unfortunate there timing-wise. Getting caught out at the wrong place and time in the universe sent him airborne. Enough time to be served wine on that flight.
Well, the annoying thing was, the moment we went to replay, Cal Young got hit again from more traffic. And I cannot believe I'm seeing that, because we're going to have a replay just to show what happened. And that's Diego Mastretta, I think it was, just going a bit too late there. I think he overcooked the tires. And Cal, I don't think Cal's liking it. That is the definition of out of the frying pan into the fire. And I don't think it's cold enough at the moment to be in the fire. It's gone from bad to worse for Cal Young. Somehow he's still driving, but he's down into 12th.
Down into 12th position. Really unfortunate for Cal Young. Lost 9 positions on the good of today. He's got to be kicking himself right now, saying, what did I do wrong on track? And looking back at the replay and definitely submitting some protests, I could only imagine. But of course, the stewards will have a look at all this, and look at the onboard shot here of the GTPs coming through some of the faster sections on the racetrack. The downforce and the aero working its wings off right now. Of course, these GTPs have a lot of air ducts and cooling associated with them, so air is being sucked in underneath the headlights as well as underneath the nose cone, pushing over the radiator down into the cockpit as well. And the brake ducts actually cooled from these ducts that are located under the headlights. A little checkup here from Jacob Reed behind one of the GTOs, nearly running into the back of him though, finds a way through, and now it's a gap of 1 second.
Yeah, that was Cal Young, and I don't think Jacob knows that the experience that Cal's just had, but I think at the same time he's probably going, I can't. And now this is going to help, because through 9 and 10 there is no place to overtake. So Reed get the better line, Reed get the better run here on Valateas, and you're going to be able to look for a move into 11. No, but he's able to just hold on by for the moment. And the cockpit view here is just giving everything you need to see. Josh Brain and Doug Cloud's going to be battling up ahead in the GTOs, and they've got Mateus Hadval right is with them as well. So this is going to be interesting, because if they're going to be a run here from Reed, there is not. So Reed's going to have to just reset, recharge, and hopefully get past everybody. They do. You're also seeing here, you're seeing on the cockpit, you're seeing the stadium cameras, I was going to say, the track cameras. You get the idea. This is what he sees. This is what we see. This is what everybody sees. They get a breather once again, but expect traffic to bunch up through that 7-8 combo.
You're absolutely right. We'll see the traffic bunch up there as it's a big off right there for Val Lunas. Holy smokes, loses the lead on a mistake all by his lonesome, and that will throw it away to Jacob Reed out into first place. The driver from the Ukraine making a critical mistake on their own. No contact to be found. Here's a replay of what happened. Just looks like he lit up the rear end and just lost it. It's just such an easy mistake to make, I'm sure, driving these GTP cars.
Well, I think the turbo went in where he wasn't expecting it, but that's also one of the slowest corners on the track there, coming out of 5. So maybe he just had a moment there. So now we have to see his aggressive attacking him. That was a GTO, just having a little bit of a late weave there, but Valenteas not where he wants to see right now is Van Hicks ahead and losing more time to Jacob Reed. The gap there, 2 seconds. Here's David Ricciardi having his own little battle with Raul Roche's Guardia. Guardia has to check up to Brandon White. And, oh, wow, that's not what you want to see. Guardia tried to make a move, and I think he accidentally caught the rear there of Brandon White, still trying to get that move done. And Ricciardi is just waiting. He's trying to play patient. It's a tough track for overtaking. So add multi-class to it there, and it just adds another level of difficulty. And I think it's showing right now that some drivers, the inexperience around this track might just be hitting some of these drivers, because that looked a very inexperienced move there for Guardian.
It's one thing to practice all on your own and put in some hot laps. It's a complete other conversation when you talk about throwing in slower multi-class racing as well. And that's where the drivers are being separated right now, is who's practiced with some AI, who's practiced driving offline and through the traffic. It's been a challenge up until this point for all the drivers to make it through cleanly, but some of them have done so. Reed, Valalunas, Martinez, have all really done a great job of negotiating the traffic right at the right time and being confident with their overtakes as well. You have to really send it and stick it. You can't hesitate, otherwise the GTOs are going to wonder what you're trying to do, and then really potentially even ruin their race, as we saw with Cal Young.
Yeah, and we don't want to see any more of those. It's been except for the Cal Young incident and the big lap 1 incident, it's been pretty quiet out there as Jack Wells is trying to make his return up the field. Look at the traffic that him and Fabian Jungblad have to go on through, and I think Jack is a little bit racy at the moment, trying to look for a move, but can't do it here. Get past Matthias Hadval, and Hadval may have made a mistake coming into turn 8 there, but it's just the way turn 8 just bends. There's nothing here for Jack, and well, this is a de facto straight, but you get to 9 and 10 so quickly, it's not really a straight, because some cars have to lift, some cars have to tap on the brakes, so he has to just wait, and there's going to be more traffic ahead, and this is Barber. Oh, does he need it? Because, oh, he's trying to slow down, and I'll tell you what, that's a very good save. Brian Henson wasn't prepared for that, but Fabian Jungblad that unlucky tap there was not on purpose, and I think Fabian then picked up some more damage there on the wing. In fact, that was actually the light of the touch from Jack, causing a lot of wing damage out there for him. Not what he wants to see.
Absolute madness here at Barber Motorsports. This really does remind me of racing around Pittsburgh, the track that will unfortunately be closing here come 2026. It's just so tight, twisty, and very technical. Not a lot of room for overtaking, as you've mentioned many times before. But now, with the multi-class madness being thrown out there as well, it's even more challenging for the drivers to negotiate that safely. And that was an incident, not as a result of the multi-class action, but just more mistakes being made by the drivers. And about halfway through this event, perhaps the fatigue setting in as the drivers are putting down 1 minute lap times. They're nearly up to 17, 18 laps at this point in time.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at a replay here of what happens. We see Billy Roller just going on by. This is Brian. And yeah, I mean, that's not what you want to see when you're in the cockpit. That is not what you want to see. Then he just loses it getting onto the grass. And you'd be saying, where's the yellow flag? Well, if there was a yellow flag, I don't think he would have had time to react to the yellow flag out there, which is a bit unfortunate. Youngblood, Guardia, Ricciardi go on Dantan as they come on by. I do wonder, is there going to be a move here? Because look at the traffic. And if Youngblood can't get by the traffic here before they hit the turn 4, and he does, and a little lift there from Guardia. Love the camera, the aerial camera. Just gave it the best view of that because it was a lift from Guardia because Youngblood couldn't get past the traffic in time. That would have been easier. Then he almost does a Valenteus, and I think that downforce is affecting him right now. Losing a couple of positions, keeping, he saves it. Keep your eye on that timing tower, though, because as I said, Valenteus is slowly catching, speaking of the legend that is the #1 car. But for Youngblood, well, he's gone backwards a couple of positions. He's still driving, though.
Just there in that incident, but now it'll be Ricciardi chasing down Guardia. Now he's glued all over the rear wing of the car in front of him as they escape the GTO traffic. Currently running nose to tail, separated by just about a 0.4 of a second. It was closer than that when they were chopping it up through the traffic. I just want to point out these liveries look absolutely phenomenal. They're so beautiful to look at. And like I said earlier, they have so much character and flair to them. Ricciardi, the driver from Switzerland, has a beautiful looking car attached to him. The GTP car trying to catch back up to Guardia after one more.
Gaining fast, but I wonder if he's going to be able to make a move because it'll have to be a send coming down into the corner for a split second. Decide against it, and he's going to have to wait. But now, does Guardia go a little bit wide? Well, even if he goes a little bit wide, there's not a lot you can do here because, again, this whole corner complex, it's so quick after the straight. Not a lot he can do out there. We'll have to just wait again. And, well, the opportunities come and the opportunities gone for Ricciardi. He's managing to keep Youngblood away, but with that damage for the rear of Youngblood's car, he's losing downforce, he's losing top speed out there. And interestingly enough, let's just think about it for a moment. We forgot to mention it. We keep an eye on Mickey Friesen. Youngblood's lost it at 5. Valenteus lost it at 5. These GTOs in their wedges, in their cheese, in their refrigerators, they don't need to worry too much about it. But I wonder, remember that wind we were talking about? I wonder if the wind is playing havoc for these drivers.
That would explain a lot, especially coming through some of these twistier sections, the wind direction changing up on them and causing them to lose a little bit of downforce here. You mentioned that earlier on in the race details, and now it is definitely becoming a full effect right now. We've lost 3 drivers in the GTP category so far. Lundberg still leads over Van Hicks in 2nd place in the GTOs, with Rolla in 3rd place, Friesen in 4th place, Hagner in 5th, Reed in 6th. It's looking pretty good and racy for the podium positions right now. with Rula chasing down Van Hicks by 0.3 of a second. Right now we're riding on board with, I'm not even going to try, the second placed car, the driver from the Ukraine, chasing down by half a second currently. Running really well after that spin. Apparently didn't damage their tires too much. Holy smokes. They're doing the best that they can with what they've got. And now they've even got some GTP traffic out in front of them.
This is going to be testing because Matthew Cochrane isn't a slow driver, so he's not going to be holding him up too much, but Jacob will want him to go as fast as he can. And there he goes. He lets them by. He had to get past the traffic himself, otherwise it would have been a little bit of a hold-up. And they've also got Brendan Lim up ahead. Don't need to worry too much. Valenteus won't be able to do much at this moment because it will just be a case of just wait and sit. And in fact, Valenteus looked for a lunge there. Now, last time he did something like this, he overheats the tires, a little bit of a wobble. Really good wobble there, really good catch. Allows Reed to just keep on pushing. And Reed with a late send into Noah Lombard, the championship leader, the leader of the GTOs. Everybody almost came together there. Reed was desperate, and he had to make that move.
Amazing stuff here. This is absolutely phenomenal. The best type of racing that you could possibly ask for. Like you said, desperation coming underway from the drivers, and they are challenging for these positions, and the championship contention is still very much on right now. So every point on the board matters, but getting involved in an incident is the worst thing that you could possibly have happen to you right now in this event. Looking forward to the next one as well. You want to secure as many points as possible. No drop rounds will be applied. Looking back at P7 and P8, it looks like an inverse of positions currently taking place between Ricciardi and Guardia.
Yeah, they've had a little swap of positions as well. I do wonder if that's not going to be the end of their story as Valenteus. Well, there's no traffic here to hold up them this time by, but a lock up from Valenteus, and you can see the smoke really pushing hard with 15 to go. Here's this battle between Ricciardi and Guardia. And you've got to give a shout out to Ricciardi, this driver, GTP Light Champions. That's the guys under 3K iRacing, because they do have their own championship as well. They can still dice it with the main boys and girls and drivers. And he's doing a real good job out there. Again, it's a smaller field today because, again, Barber, I will say it till the cows come home, it's a track that people really need to give themselves a drive outside of IndyCar. It just delivers a lot of opportunities for you to have some real fun racing. It's a roller coaster, and this man's on a roller coaster in the 007 camera. Here, there's Valenteus, and he's not doing it in the tuxedo like James Bond. He's going to just lose the camera a little bit, but he's been trying. Now look where he sets his car up. He thinks that there's a chance to make a lunge here, and I wonder on the final lap if he looks for any sort of lunge. Meanwhile, you see in the timing tower, Billy Roller takes P2 away from Johan Van Hicks. Well, that's one that's been going for a while, and the gap between Roller and Lundberg is just growing and growing as Noel is doing a fantastic job in the lead.
Really is. Lundberg pulling out a gap of nearly 5 seconds right now. That leaves the battle for P2 and P3 still up for grabs between Rula and Van Hicks, as Van Hicks, like you said, got inversed there for just a second. It'll be Val Lunas in second place, chasing down Jacob Reed right now. And man, 13 minutes left on the clock. It's still anybody's ball game for the lead of this race in the GTP category. These guys are relentless against each other and providing us with some great entertainment, that's for sure. Here's Brandon White, driver from the US of A, going up the inside of the number 31. That'll be Henry. And Henry's carrying a lot of speed and momentum around the outside, covers off the inside for the following corner, and it'll be moved, sealed for now, at least.
I wonder if Viramaki can hold this up, because looks like he's just missed a gear there. A really good run from Brandon Wright, and Viramaki does let them go. No! And Brandon Lim tried to get the speed on down. He collects into the driver there, probably just taking a bit too much speed. I do wonder if that was just trying to look for a hole Brandon White with a lot of damage, and yeah, it looked like trying to look for a hole there. Pretty sure he gets on the microphone on the radio straight away and apologizes, and that's unfortunate there. Brendan Lim already down. David Ricciardo goes, I do apologize for the no. Never like to see anyone just collecting there, just an honest mistake from Brendan taking a bit too much speed. Never like to see anyone get caught out there. It's been a pretty clean race. Ricciardo trying to go for that send, and that's a bit too late. But an excuse me elbow there allows him to get that P7.
Holy smokes, a P7, but I'd expect some flashing of the headlines from Guardia there. Just wondering what the heck that was or what was going on, or maybe he realizes that he has the pace. The driver from Spain really going to challenge back here shortly, I can only imagine. Ricciardo behind by around half a second now. Here's Martin and the number 25 car going wheel to wheel. And man, it just looks like these cars are so challenging to control, but because they have so much power associated with them, not because their mechanical grip is lacking at the slightest. It really just looks like these cars are overpowered for this track, but drivers doing a really great job of negotiating the tricky conditions here at Barber Motorsports Park very, very well.
Doing the best they can. Great trick here. Battling the 14th position as well. 13th Ferrari with Viramaki. Now, this was the positions that we didn't see on the stream. We saw it on the timing tower. Van Hicks losing the lead to Ville Rolla. So now Rolla trying to get on by. You got to feel that Rolla actually lost the that P2. Started second to start the race and got back into P2. Final 10 minutes starts to tick on by, and Van Hicks going a little bit too wide there with the man who claims he hails from Australia, but he doesn't. He's just making sure the car doesn't end up upside down. He would need a real good performance today, because let's just talk about the championship standing, because he was leading the championship just by 6 points from Noah Lundberg, and well, Lundberg's in the lead at the moment, and there's a car between both of them. So this will give Lundberg actually the championship lead, and I'm not going to go all the way back, but it's been a while since we've been able to say that in the middle of the season. Lundberg really showing the strength out here today, and this season as well, to really take this lead. It's going to be very close. Also, do keep your eyes on that timing tower. I always like to say keep your eyes on the timing tower. There's things we miss. There's things you'll see as well, because that gap for the lead GTPs is closing. So is that gap as well for P2 and P3 in the GTO. But here's
Valenteus trying to keep in spitting distance of Jacob Reed, currently running in first place after a small mistake from Valenteus. It's all he needed to be invited to walk down and get the lead of the event. Fast lap, a 110.5 for Valenteus, 110.8 for Jacob Reed. So Valenteus definitely has the speed to catch back up, but catching is one thing, passing a whole nother ball game as the GTO makes a big wiggle. That'll be the number 8 of Mickey Friesen that they just got by there, and a brief puff of dirt and debris being kicked up as there was a driver caught in the wall. Not sure who that was, but didn't get involved in the traffic. Now more GTP traffic for the GTP leaders will open up the gap to 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, trying to get past the lead GTOs, but they're almost collecting Mickey Friesen there going into turn 11. Valenteus has lost a lot of time, and he worked for that time as well, and that's going to be the most frustrating thing, is he worked for it. Now he's just telling Guardia, I need to get on by, and he lets Guardia go on by. Here's that replay of Richard Hyman actually just getting called out from Guardia last time by, just coming through. We saw that earlier as well with another car through 13, but just a small moment of concentration, or a lapse of concentration, and Valenteus is pushing hard. And I just feel like he's unable to really get that turn 8 down, because he's gone wide so many times, and it's just not helping, because now he gets held up from Noah Lundberg, and the gap feels like it's shrinking, but it isn't. And he's losing time not just on the traffic now, he's losing time just because of the mistakes he's having out there.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate. But like you said, it's one of the most frustrating parts about motor racing sometimes, especially when you're in traffic, is that traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. Sometimes it'll work in your favor, sometimes it won't. But you always think about the car in front being the luckiest guy on the earth. These guys are moving out of their way to allow the leader by, but P2 they don't even shake a stick at. So it gets quite frustrating being the driver behind, just wondering why you can never be quite as lucky. But Val Lunas really doing a great job of managing the traffic, but the gap has opened up to 1.6 seconds. There's a big off from Van Hicks, and Joni Hagner now chasing him down, and this will be another battle for P3. Van Hicks down 1.5 seconds from Rula out in P2, so maybe out of that striking distance as he made a critical mistake going a little too deep at the bottom of the key.
Yeah, interesting moment there, because it wasn't the fact that he was braking on the grass. It was more he was braking so hard the car was starting to wobble and the car was taking him to the grass. And he was like, I don't want to go to the grass. I'm happy here. The tarmac's my friend today, not the grass. But unfortunately for him, it was not. He had to pull out again. I wonder if he almost just got a little touch there from watching Joni Hagner on board with Joni Hagner. I wonder if there was a little bit of a tap there as one of those GTPs came on by through Van Hicks, but nothing at the moment. As you see the dirty windscreen, just because we've only got a single split today, just because there's only 19 GTOs and 17 GTPs, doesn't mean there's a lot of debris thrown up as Brandon White continues on. Actually, good to see Brandon still going after that moment earlier, battling again. Henry Viermacchi gets a really good run. I do wonder if he's able to make something work this time by. No, not with the way the corner is cut off there from Viermacchi. He goes a little bit wide, but I love this corner here. 7, the little S at 7, downhill hairpin at 8. You feel that you can make some time up in that corner, and then you realize you've got another corner to go. You can't make any time up there, and that helps Viermacchi because he did not have a good 7, but he recovered with a good 8.
During the track guide, we talked about turn 7, 7A, and 7B being corkscrew-esque. It's like going through the corkscrew, but throw another corner in there as well for good measure, because it really is a really challenging chicane to make your way through. A small plummet, definitely not a 6-story drop such as Laguna Seca, but it is a elevation change that we discussed during the track details. As here comes Jacob Reed coming through the traffic, doing a great job of negotiating it. This is definitely where Val Lunas is definitely saying, this guy is the luckiest guy on the planet right now, as Val Lunas cuts the chicane completely, nearly misses his brake point coming down the hill.
He had to take a slowdown because of that, because he wanted to get past Roman Bello in the GTO, so much so he tried to go around the outside at 7, and that's never going to work. And you can see that this is really the first time in a long time Valenteus looks rattled. Not just because Jacob Reed is just on his tail. Valenteus has nothing today, and that this is a surprise. This is not being a Stephen Smith bashing a person saying that he can't be as good as the men of the past. No, Valenteus is the man. This is not a passing of the torch moment. This is Valenteus not coming to grips as well with Barber, and can you blame him? Barber is not a track that anyone drives, so he's really making up time when it matters, and he's going to make up time here as Reed is battling David Ricciardi to get behind to lap him. But when it comes to right behind with the dirty air, Valenteus is struggling, and he's got 3 minutes to find it, and those 3 minutes is going to be 3 laps with how quick this time goes. He needs a little bit of divine intervention out there. He needs some traffic to help him. I don't think he's going to get it. Noah Lundberg in the GTOs goes fastest for the class. Valenteus, he needs help. I don't know where he's going to get it from.
Yeah, that is something. I don't know what to say, because Valenteus has not been off the mark all race long. He's obviously a very quick driver, holding on to that fast lap of the event, but Noel for so long, but Noel Lundberg stealing it away with that 121.1 as the fuel comes down, as the tire.
Oh, Jacob Reed's at a spin, sorry! Jacob Reed, he spun out the lead! The leader has spun! Jacob Reed has spotted Valenteus. He gets to the fine intervention he needs. And a mistake from Jacob Reed in the dying minutes of the race, trying to go around the outside of Cal Young. And Cal Young has been the man that has been a magnet for the GTPs today. And it was just a little bit of drifting out of 2 into 3. And it just cost Jacob Reed. The lead is back to Valenteus. And he spins again. Reed spins again.
13-second gap diminishing on the timing tower right now. Gabriel Martinez, driver in 3rd position, who's had a quiet race up until this point, now could find themselves challenging Jacob Reed should they incur any more mistakes like that. Completely understood. But man, what a divine intervention, mistake of the gods. I don't know how you want to describe it. Valenteus really needed something like that to happen, and it finally went his way. The driver in 1st place right now controlled most of the field for this race, made a small mistake himself, lost the lead of the event, and then ended up clinching it back through a mistake from Jacob Reed.
I know there's commentators' curses, but I never cursed the man. Just for the record, that is a surprise. That is a rare mistake from either of these drivers, and both of them, what you can see, the fact that Jacob Reed then had a issue and spun out at turn 7 into 8, you can see that these guys are literally on the edge. They are dicing with a track they do not know, and they have been trying so hard to make it work. Valenteus is going to come across the line, and he will have, well, there's 19 seconds left in the race. He, in theory, will get 1 time by. In fact, 14 seconds, he will get 1 time by. But the GTOs, they're about to see it as well. They may only have 1 lap left themselves.
Barney the flag man furiously waving that white flag high as there's just 1 second left on the clock. This will be it. Noah Lundberg really has had a quiet race, pretty eventless, negotiated the traffic very well himself, stayed clear of any battles that he needed to. Driver with 6.8K iRating, showing what he's made of here tonight at Barber Motorsports Park. Put on a phenomenal drive in front of Rula and Van Hicks, who are currently separated by 1 second on the racetrack.
Well, this is the race that has provided a lot of drama. On a racetrack that the drivers said that they love, we have seen the top drivers, the aliens, push themselves to a limit that made both of them break on a track that is unusual to them. It's almost a UFO, but it's not a UFO today. It will be the top spot. Valenteus will lead them away, and he gets it. It's not lights to flag, but it is the victory he wants. And he laps every GTO but Noah Lundberg, which means Lundberg will get the victory. Van Hicks holds off Van Hicks at the end to take 2nd and 3rd respectively. And Jacob Reed coming across the line very shortly. He's going to see Van Hicks battling as well. But what could have been Gabriel Martinez gets that 3rd position. Wow, what a shock those final 4 minutes provided.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff here at the IMSA Vintage Series, providing us with great entertainment and excitement for the final few minutes of this event. Final few minutes or final 40 minutes, whichever way you want to look at it, this entire race has been nail-biting and exciting. Watching these cars undulate and make their way through the traffic has been very exciting around a track that is, well, challenging to pass at, even more challenging with multi-class racing, but the drivers put on a hell of a show tonight.
What a show they put on. Noah Lundberg's going to be the last man to finish. I think actually Brandon White might be behind, but Noah Lundberg has to take this lap all by himself. A little commiseration for Van Hicks to Jacob Reed. Noah Lundberg gets the victory in the GTOs. He'll start with the drifts. And I don't see anybody else drifting, so I think the unofficial drift champion will be Lundberg if he crashes into the line. Heineman's going to be the last man, and you did your man proud today. You got over the line, and that's the important thing. Kept that car clean. The Canadian will finish the race. That's going to do it all. So let's go to those final standings because, well, they're very chaotic standings when you look at it because Valenteus wins over Jacob Reed. And, well, we didn't think that was going to happen 5 minutes ago. Gabriel Martinez gets that P3 with Henning Swebeke in 4th. And then Jack Wells falls down, but nice recovery to get home in 5th. Lars Olsen, the last man on the lead lap, in 6th. Then it's Seamus Power up 5 into 7th. David Ricciardi in 8th. Fabian Jumblov 9th. Raul Roches Guardia rounds out your top 10, which leads us to Andre Felipe Diaz up 3 to 11th. Matthew Cockerham just finishes behind him in 12th. Brendan Lim goes 2 laps down, and then the drivers who had issues out there. Brian Henson retired early, 22 laps down. Diego Mastretta, we saw what happened to him there. And then Tobias Rona and Garanyuka Gabbiani caught out in that early accident there. They finished 16th and 17th respectively. Thankfully, the GTOs, they're not so chaotic.
In that GTO category, it was pretty calm, cool, and collected for Noel Lundberg, who took the big fat W. He'll be drinking champagne on the top step. Billy Rula in 2nd position. Dorm Van Hicks in 3rd. Yoni Hagner, Mickey Friesen, Timothy Reed, Ika Costello, Gotisalo, Matthias Hudval, and Doug Cloud. Cal Young, who finished 1 lap down and was involved in a ton of incidents, unfortunately. Josh Brain in 11th place. Roman Bello, Martin Kedrick in 13th. Brandon White, Henry Vermaki in 15th. Richard Heineman in 16th. Adian Oxidine, Chris Hayes, and Ian Haycox rounding out the 19 participants in the GTO category.
Well, we knew it was going to be a challenging race today. It's Barber Motorsports. It's a challenging track, and then you add the multi-class aspect. It's always a little bit chaotic out there. But that's it. That's Barber done. That's Barber done for the week for the drivers, which means they can now rest. And, well, they go from one tight track to next week. They're at Virginia International Raceway. We know what this track can do. It hasn't seen multi-class racing for a decade, however.
Been amazing stuff here at Barber, but heading over to VIR, the Grand Course, combining both sections of the racetrack will be very, very exciting stuff, especially in these vintage tracks, vintage cars. It is going to be grueling to watch them come up the hill in the S's, come down the roller coaster, and hit turn 1 all over again.
Yep. Can't wait to watch that next week. And you can watch it, of course, here on GSRC. So don't forget to hit like and that subscribe button. A shout out, of course, to Segar Bashki and Christian Deploy and, of course, Dougie Beard for what they have done. We do have more racing this weekend because we have the Lotus 79s tomorrow at Jerez out there, followed by the MX-5 United on Tuesday at Rusogen. And then the Skip Barbers go to Okayama before we do it all again in the weekend with the Grand Prix Legends at Road America. And then, as we were saying, it's VIR. We go from one tight track in America to the tight track in America. Next week, America's Green Hell waits the new championship leaders. And trust me, with just a month left to go, those championship leaders may be crying after they visit VIR. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, race clean, race hard, and we will see you on the racetrack.